Okay, so this video is not really the typical scripted YouTube videos that I like to make. Um, it will probably, or oh yeah, it will have edits. I will try and cut out the parts where I'm just going whatever. It's not just a completely off the cuff video, but it's not really meant to be super entertaining. More so, of course, I want the video to be entertaining, but it's more so to be just a documentation of what I've been kind of doing with my life for the past year or so, or technically 2 years. But and really and truly, the whole channel, to be honest, is apart from the fact that I wanted to grow and I want people to see it, it is also meant to serve as somewhat of a documentation of my life, because I think I'm going to be able to look back on my life one day, and I think I'll be satisfied. I could see the growth, and that's what I want to do. I want to grow as a person and not just be successful, but just be a better person, as cringe as that sounds. Another thing, so the title of this video is how I became fluent in a language in like 2 years. That language is German. So if you're one of those people who are looking for a tutorial, just say for example you see this video and you're thinking it's okay, a tutorial on how I can become fluent in German, or how I can prepare for the TestDaF, or how I can prepare for go to TestDaF or something like that. This is not that type of video. This is more so just a documentation of my personal journey, how I got to this place, what I do, what were the challenges, why I'm doing it in the first place, and that kind of thing. And I think it's really interesting. Probably one of the weirdest things I've done in my life. I never suspected I'd be doing it, but I did it, and I'm doing it. So for context, what I'm referring to is that I became fluent in German in about 2 years. I grew up in Jamaica. English is my native tongue. I studied French up to grade 11 in high school, and I did Spanish up until grade 9. So my French was better than my Spanish, obviously. Was I good in French? I was okay. I could pass tests. I did pretty well on the exams and stuff. Could I speak with any French native speakers? No. Can I do it in German? Yes. I'd say my German is way better than my French, but I'll get into my progression in German in a bit. In February, I did a language test, and that basically certifies that I have reached a level in German. I'll get more into what that level is later. That allows me to study at a German university, and that's really the reason why I've done this in the first place. So to understand the reason I did this, it's a bit of a story. So go back to 2020. I just done CSEC. For the people who don't know what CSEC is, it's sort of like a standardized examination that people need to do to prove that you know a certain level at a certain subject and probably get into university with it. So the equivalent, like for the people, if anyone from like the UK is watching this, then the equivalent is obviously the am I in focus, right? So the equivalent is like the GCSEs, right? Which I think technically would be O levels, and then you have A levels, and the equivalent of A levels is like CAPE, and CAPE is like really like a lot harder. It's like a step above CSEC, and that's really the university entrance qualification. But obviously before you do A levels, you have to do O levels, and before you do CAPE, you have to do CSEC. And after you do CSEC is a point in time where you really start thinking about, okay, like what universities do I want to go to? If I want to go to university, basically like what am I going to do after I finish high school? That's kind of when you start thinking about it. And so for a long time I realized I wanted to study outside. Ideally I wanted to study somewhere outside of Jamaica, my home country. Not necessarily because I think how do I word this? I wanted to experience what like living in like a first world country, like a better country is like, and naturally that comes with more opportunities. I'm not saying I'm gonna like move, I'm not saying I'm not gonna move there, but I think it's just not necessarily that the education is better, but it's just an experience, something that you can say you did, and it opens up more doors for you, especially for what I want to study, which is computer science. I think I definitely get more opportunities abroad than I would do here. Now I could study here and then get those opportunities abroad, but you get what I'm saying, it'll be easier to access them if I just move beforehand. Not saying everyone should migrate and contribute to the brain drain. Thing is, I could always come back and contribute that way, but I want to open some international doors for me. And so that basically means that there are a few options. So we went to this guru on universities and opportunities for Jamaicans trying to go abroad, and we basically said, me and my mother, we basically said, listen, what are the options? I want to study abroad, but we also don't want to pay a crap ton of tuition. So you're looking at a scholarship. So the options were SATs. So obviously you do SATs, and if you do really good, you get accepted into a good university. If you do really, really good, then you can get somewhat of a scholarship. And then if you can write a really good essay and someone really likes the essay, and it's like in the top 0.111% of people that apply that have written an essay, then you can get a scholarship. And the only way I would study in America is with a scholarship, because there's no way I would want to, up to me, but it's like, even if my parents were willing to pay that, or if they could, I wouldn't want them to do it, because it's just like, that's a lot of money. And then I wouldn't want to take like loans or something, and then like have to like wait a whole decade before I could pay it off and really start living. So I didn't really want to go through that, because maybe I could have done the SATs and maybe I could have written a good essay, but also the fact that even if I did really good, the chances that I would get the result that I needed would have been kind of low, because the competition is just really high to begin with. The other option was there was a scholarship for China, and that one sounded nice because you go to China, you didn't have to learn the language before, but you'd go to China, you would spend a year in China, and you would learn the language there. I could see myself doing that, to be honest. But that one didn't really seem it was a better option, maybe, but I wasn't convinced. And so she said this one option that I've never ever heard of, I've never even considered, at Germany. So apparently in Germany, and when I heard this, I couldn't believe it. Germany there's no tuition for students in Germany. And that applies not only to people who have actually lived in Germany and are German citizens, but also international students. So it's like, what? There has to be some kind of catch. And the catch is that you have to learn German. Go figure. Which is not really a catch, it's just more so like a requirement. Like obviously if you're going to study at a German university, you have to learn German. So that made sense, right? Like obviously you'd have to still pay some money for like rent and food and stuff, because it's not like a scholarship, but there's no tuition. There's no crap ton of tuition, like $40,000 per semester. If anything, it's like maybe a couple £100, which is very doable and very reasonable in my opinion. And I also had two family members. Well, I have more family members, but I have two aunts who moved to Germany, who have settled down. So I have family there, coincidentally. And I just thought, that actually sounds viable, I could learn German in 2 years when I'm ready to go to university. Maybe I take a gap year, or I could learn the SATs, not really learn anything because it's mostly just math and English and multiple choice and swatting, and then hope and pray that somebody likes my essay and my application, and then hope and pray I get that scholarship. Or I could just do this very straightforward thing, learn a language. I've done it before. I was very confident in my French when I chose to do it. I'm no longer confident in my French now, because I've reached a point in German where it's like, that stuff that I learned in school was nothing. Well, I've reached a point in my German now. Even before I did the exam, just defaultly, I knew that yeah, I can study in Germany. And back then, thankfully, I had the confidence to say, yeah, let's do it. So that consultation happened at the end of 2020, and I really started to pick up learning German in February of 2021, and I did the exam in February 2023. And so I want you to understand that I knew not one lick of German in 2020, and at February 2021 I knew maybe I could say hello, what's your name, and I could say them, but I couldn't. If someone said that to me, I wouldn't be able to understand it. So it was really nothing. So I knew basically no German. And in 2 years, I went from that level to being able to study at a university. But what is the requirement to study on a university? Is it that hard? Is what I did that impressive? Well, I'll explain later in the video what is really required of you. And I'll try and compare it with like what you can imagine you would learn in school. just for context, because I assume a lot of people know what it's like to learn a language in school. Some people know what it's like to go up to like grade 11 with a language in school. I do. So I can compare them. Okay, so how did I do this? So I started in February 2021. How did I learn German? So the first remarkable thing I can say is that I pretty much had no teacher. And I'm not saying that to show off. It's just one of those things where it's like, how the frick did I even do this? But the way I did it makes perfect sense how I was able to do it. So she referred us to an app called Babbel, and it's a paid app. If you want to get the full course, it's paid. It's pretty expensive. It's a pretty expensive subscription. I think it was like $30 a month. But I'm saying this now, like if you need to learn a language, and I mean seriously learn a language, like in the next couple of months you're gonna take a trip somewhere, and you need to at least be able to say, you need to be able to understand them, and you need to be able to say shit. Use Babbel. It's very good. And what I did, so they have this course, right? And they have a course for German, and they have these mini segments, and every segment they teach you a part of the grammar. And I can't go into too much detail of it now, but essentially what I did is that they divide every like course or every segment of the course into mini like little lessons, and you can do a lesson might last between like 15 to 30 minutes, or maybe even less. Maybe it might last 5 minutes, depends on the lesson. And what I did, I kid you not, for 4 to 5 months straight, I can check that when I have the time, but for about 4 to 5 months straight, I did 5 lessons every single day. 5 lessons. Some days I only did 3, but every single day, I'm talking Sunday to Sunday, consistently I did 5 lessons. And that's what she told us to do. And I realized I need to have like 5 years to learn German. There's no way I was gonna take, I had maybe 1 year. I ended up having 2. So I was definitely willing to put in that much effort and really accelerate it. And I kid you not, within those 5 months, I stopped after 5 months because there's just no content left. Like there was some content, but it wasn't in the main course. Everything else was like peripheral courses. Like, hey, here's some vocabulary for when you go to the workplace, or here's some vocabulary when you work in IT, or it's like very like minuscule things like that. But I got through the main course, and I tell you what, I wouldn't have been able to pass the exam with that knowledge. I certainly would not have been able to pass the exam with that. But when I tell you that after those 5 months, my German was like leaps and bounds ahead of my French. In 5 months, I probably became better at German than I was, and I realized that I was at French for 5 years studying French. I'm serious. And I don't know if it's because German is an easier language. In some ways it's harder. Like there's a lot of crazy crap. Like there are 3 genders, there are like long words, da. But it's also I found that a lot of times I'm able to like think something in English and just kind of translate it to German. Like the way you set up sentences is very English similar. And I can't say that about French or Spanish definitively, because I just didn't get to a level high enough where I could really make that comparison. But so yeah, I'm not sponsored by Babbel or anything. I have no affiliation with them, but like it's a good app, and that was like my foundation. After those 5 months, I did a few courses. I did other things, like I read articles, like National Geographic articles, like very scientific stuff. And obviously when I didn't understand something, I'd look it up, write it down in my little book. I have like 4 notebooks full of vocabulary. 4 notebooks full of just vocabulary and maybe some activities. But from February to now, 4 notebooks. 4 proper like me notebooks, bro. I'm telling you. And I would just look it up, use Google Translate was my teacher. Like people say you're not supposed to use Google Translate to learn language, but you definitely should use Google Translate. You definitely should. And if you're smart, if you're smart, then you know how to use Google Translate to extract certain features of grammar that you didn't know before. But you can only do that if you have a good base, and that's the base I got from Babbel. But after that, you can kind of put in sentences and you weren't sure, and you can kind of, well, okay, so when you use this pronoun in this sentence, and you get what I'm saying. I read a lot of articles. I listened to German when I didn't even understand it. So there were, I would listen to, there's a live stream on YouTube, DW for example, Deutsche Welle, that's like German CNN, and that's like the best comparison I can give to it. It's like German CNN, and they have an English stream, but they also have a German stream. So obviously I watch the German stream. At the beginning, I don't understand anything, nothing. I would listen to podcasts, didn't understand anything. But the person said that if you want to understand German, or if you want to understand language, listen to it even if you don't understand it. So that's another tip I can give you. Force yourself to listen to things you don't understand, and just naturally over time, your brain or your ears will learn to pick up the things, and when you start picking up some things, you can pick up other things. And maybe if there are images at the same time, no subtitles, you don't need subtitles, just study the language, and in your free time, listen to things you don't understand, put it on in the background, and when you start understanding it, then actually start listening to it. So don't just hear German or hear that language you're trying to learn while you're doing something else. When you start to actually understand it, you have to, now it's time to pay attention. That's how you're going to accelerate your progress. Which at the end of 2021, I had a tutor when I wasn't in school and I had a few weeks break. Me and my mother, we had a tutor who lives in Panama. She really helped me. She was pretty surprised when we first talked to each other. Like, my German was not perfect at the time. There were still plenty of holes. Now there's still holes, but I would say there are definitely less holes. I definitely know a lot more now than I do back then, which is natural. But she was impressed because I could understand her. I could speak. I could understand her better now. I could, and that's a common pattern that I've realized. I generally, when I speak with people who haven't met me, oh, this guy, he's learning German, he's from Jamaica, I always surprise them. Always, consistently. And to me, I don't use that to flex or anything. It's just something I realize. It's the same thing. There's a German Discord server online where people go to speak German, and the amount of times I've been in calls, and obviously I make mistakes. Obviously I get corrected, but I get a lot of compliments from random people who speak German, who are German native speakers, to say, wow, you're all right. Yeah, like you're pretty good. You're not like some phenom or anything, but you're all right. And so she definitely helped me a lot, because when you're learning German alone, I think at some point you definitely still need some level of correction. Even if you're fully accountable and everything, you still need some level of correction. She definitely gave me that. She pointed out some common mistakes I was making, some misunderstandings I had with the language and certain words and how to use them. She gave me some activities. She helped me see holes that I need to work on, and it was just an overall very helpful experience. So even though it didn't last very long, I was able to use that knowledge and apply it and expand my proficiency in the language after that. So that was another thing. She was probably the only one-on-one instructor I had, and I did her. We had some more classes again, about 3 more classes way into the future at the beginning of 2022 in January, before my exam, because at that point we really just wanted to, we kept in touch, but we really just wanted to, at that point I was nervous, like, okay, how do I sound when I speak German? Do I make these mistakes? I need someone to make sure I'm being accountable to myself. And so that's how we did 3 classes where I spoke, and she said, wow, you're better, you're good, this, that, the other. Here are some mistakes. Again, these mistakes are just small things, but since they're there, I might as well tell you, that kind of thing. At the end of 2022, at this point, I'm no longer in school, so I had a lot of time. I had maybe months just to study German. Just wake up every day, eat, sleep, work out German every single day. And on top of other things, maybe work on my YouTube channel as well. But at the end of 2022, I read 12 Rules to Life in German. And that's not easy to do. Yeah, so this book is not like John woke up, went to the supermarket. It's defeat your inner self, clean your room, the devil of chaos, this shit. And that was really impressive. Obviously, I understand everything, but I learned from it, When you don't understand something, you don't get frustrated, but you learn. And obviously, the closer we got to the exam, the more exam-focused the preparation became. So that meant doing activities like past paper questions and questions of the type of format of the questions you're going to get in the exam, and that was a constant struggle. But I'll get into that later in the video. I had a lot of challenges doing this. Obviously, it's not easy. Well, the first challenge is that when you're trying to learn how to speak German, because speaking is just one part of it. Obviously, when you're talking about language, there are four things: reading, writing, hearing, speaking. And speaking was one of the things where I live in Jamaica. There are basically no German speakers in Jamaica. Go figure. And you wonder, well, how would I know that what I'm saying is true? Now, I can talk to myself. I have no issue doing that. And I can compare how I sound to the people who I'm sort of imitating. So I've been told that I kind of sound like I have a German accent, and that's because I only learn with people who have a German accent. I watch YouTube videos of German speakers. I'm not in a classroom where it's a bunch of other people pronouncing the same words and they're all pronouncing them with their mother tongue. If I don't sound like that German that I'm watching, I'm not saying it right. So I developed sort of an accent or something. Obviously, I'm not a native tongue, but I don't, sometimes I listen to like some Americans speak German. I'm like, well, I'll probably put a little accent on it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta put accent on it, bro. It's just how I do it. So, but I already mentioned the Discord. And you can speak with native speakers there. I had some moments where I speak with Frau Sherpa, my tutor. I had a family friend who knew someone that is German and lives in Jamaica, and maybe in last January before my exam, I spoke with him a lot, and he was also surprised. He was probably expecting some kid that didn't even know German. He probably expecting some kid that could have just said John went to the supermarket, woke up. Like, no. We talked about languages, like the history and the development of languages. Like, at that point in time, I hope you guys realize I can say anything to any topic. I can say anything to any topic, just almost as if I'm speaking English. I'm not perfect, but you know what I'm saying? And I'll explain, like, I can't wait to get to explain to you what is really required. So that's how I fix the issue about speaking to people. I forced myself to socialize, I imitated people, and you obviously just have to have a really good sense of accountability. Like, yeah, I know what I'm trying to say, but would a German person understand what I'm trying to say? And that's what I'm trying to get at. So you gotta listen to yourself. Sometimes you gotta record yourself and listen to all your stupid mistakes. And one of the most frustrating challenges was not knowing the exact requirements of the exam. So let me explain something to you. This is how I'm gonna explain the German system. So when we signed up for this, I knew that I had to speak German. I had to reach a certain proficiency in German. Okay, the question is, what proficiency? For the people who don't know, for German and for pretty much all European languages, there's this like certified European reference grading system where they're able to grade your language and see how well you are. And it goes from A1 to C2. So it's A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. A1 is like complete beginner. C2 is like you're bilingual, It's called your second language, might as well be a native speaker, you get the idea. I wasn't sure what level I needed to reach, right? Because sometimes I saw B2, but then it turns out it's based on the university and maybe sometimes what subject you're studying, and the different tests you can do. So a C1 test here isn't equivalent to another C1 test with another organization. And because a lot of the information on the website was naturally written in German, when you're learning the language, it can be very hard to understand exactly what you need to understand. So I went through periods where I literally didn't know what exam I was preparing for. At one point I thought I had to do Goethe C1, or I thought I had to do C2 for Goethe, or maybe I can do C1 for Telk, or I could do C1 Telk Hochschule, which is like the university variant for it. And it went through a whole bunch of process, and at one point I thought I had to do C2, which is like they call it Großes Deutsches Sprachdiplom, and that means like the big German certificate, the big German diploma. You're like, whoa, that's like the highest level you can reach. And I thought I had to do that. And of course it sucked when I thought I learned that, because it was like, whoa, what the hell, this is hard. But I dug down, and we ended up getting some help from a person who worked at like the Goethe Institute in Washington, which is where I did my exam. And he said, well, if you're trying to go to university, then you can just do the TestDaF. And the TestDaF is basically B2 to C1, and it doesn't grade you based on like, okay, you're B2, you're C1. It grades you based on like it consists of 4 exam parts. You know, as I mentioned, reading, hearing, speaking, and listening, and every part is like graded. It's like scaled and it's graded and it's given a grade, and if you get a certain grade across all of them, like A, B, in this case it was TDN 5, 4, 3. If you get like TDN 4 across all of them, then you're good. You can, you know, your language skills are good enough to study at a university in Germany, at any university, pretty much, for pretty much every course that you want to do. There's some exceptions, like if you're studying, like I saw, if you're studying like bio, New York chemistry, or something crazy like that, then you need a little more. So that was finally nice, and I only figured this out. I was studying German for 2 years, but I only figured out like what exam I was going to do maybe in September of last year, after thinking I was going to do so much other exams. But I didn't waste my time, because obviously in preparing for those exams, I did activities and they were hard, and I learned and I got better. But I just thought that was just one of the more frustrating aspects of the preparation. So the exam structure is like this, as I've already mentioned. It's reading, writing, speaking, listening, and there are 4 parts. I'm talking about the digitale TestDaF, the digital TestDaF, the Test Deutsch as Firmensprache, German as foreign language, and so that's the name of the exam. It's 4 parts, as I've already mentioned, and it's scaled, and every part is complicated. I'm not gonna get into like the whole parts now, but it's a bunch of different things, and it's not situation based. It's not like, okay, here's vocab for the supermarket, here's vocab for the train station. You could be asked about anything, literally anything. The best way you could prepare for this exam is really and truly go and read like the newspaper, go and read some form of article, go and read Nat Geo, go and read Tagesschau, Technologie-Nachrichten. That's what I did. Go and read books on different things that you typically read in English. Go and read them in German, and just inform yourself on anything, because you could get questions on literally anything. Climate change, alternative forms of energy. I kid you not, like social sciences, natural science type questions. Nothing like in depth, but enough that a normal person will be able to answer them and say something to them, or at least make up something. And obviously you're not being judged based on the quality or the accuracy of your answers, but you're being more so judged on how well are you able to express them, and how well are you able to get the message through. So you don't really need to know much about it. You just need to know like how much like a normal human being who is well read knows on these things. And just to give you an example, I think for writing, for example, the writing part is like, one part is an argumentative text, and the other part is a summary. And so you're in the exam, one of the things was like, give me the advantages and disadvantages of when multiple generations live under one roof. You know what I'm saying? Another example, just off the top of my head, that I did in preparation was like, give me the advantages and disadvantages when there are more lectures that happen online. Sometimes in the speaking part, you get different situations. Like, for example, you have to give advice. So say, for example, this is a situation. You have 30 seconds to come up with a response to this, right? Do this in your native tongue. You're gonna need to practice anyways. It's like 30 seconds. Get this. So someone is moving to a new country or a new city. Tell them what they need to do to orient themselves on the city. What's the first thing you would recommend them do? 30 seconds, by the way, to think about that, and then you have 45 seconds to formulate the answer. It's not easy. Another thing is like, sometimes you get presentations to do, where it's like, okay, here's a presentation, here are 3 headings, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to make a 2-minute presentation, and you have to talk about everything on each of these things. So some of this stuff is not even easy to do in your native tongue, honestly. So yeah, you just have to know a lot, bro. You really have to know the language. And you really have to not only be good in that language, but you have to be good in your own language as well. You need to know things just to have something to say, honestly. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. People do it, but it's not like I'm trying to just make you know like this is not like high school French, bro. So what I got. So I said that the grading scale is like B2 to C1, or the exam certifies you for can certify for B2 to C1 around that range. And essentially, if you get TDN 5 or TDN 4 on a exam module, that's equivalent to C1. So TDN 4 is like low C1 and TDN 5 is like high C1. So I got TDN 5 in writing and speaking, and I got TDN 4 in hearing and writing, and that basically means I'm C1. So which is the level just below second language. Might as well be a native speaker. That's the level just below that. So pretty good, I'd say. When I speak with people in German, I don't have to ask them to slow down their language. I don't have to ask them to simplify it. They can speak perfectly fine how they would speak. I can understand it perfectly fine. I can respond perfectly fine. The difference is that maybe I'm reading certain literature. I don't recognize all words. Some verbs are just weird. Some verbs like he swiveled around, like, you know, like it's words like that make the difference between C1 and C2 in my opinion. Or he swiveled around, or he that was the straw that broke the camel's back, those little literature, higher level language things that you probably don't know. You know some, if you do C1, you actually know quite a bit, but you don't know all of them. And I think that's the difference between C1 and C2 for me personally. And of course, you just make less mistakes, pretty much all the very small differences in grammar, things that probably even like native speak mistakes would make sometimes, that kind of thing. So what was the trip like? So we flew out. The exam was on the 14th of February. We flew out the 11th. I was on Saturday, came back the 15th. And that was an interesting experience because it's expensive. The exam is not free. The exam is probably like £200. And then you have to combine that with the pressure. Like, obviously, my mother's paying for all of this. So it's a lot of pressure for me because I don't want to like waste the money because this is for me. So you pay for the trip, then you pay for a hotel, then you pay for all the transportation. Obviously, you go to Washington. I didn't want to do any sightseeing initially. I was like, no, just get me there, and I'll just study for like the days where I'm there. And, like, I don't care about anything else. That was what my mindset was at. And it was actually my mother that forced me. I was like, okay, no, we need to do some sightseeing. Like, you can't come to Washington and not see stuff. So we saw like the monument, and we took the metro, and it was nice. I enjoyed it. We had dinner with some family members that lived up there. That was nice. At the day of the exam was very interesting. So I was not sure exactly who to expect. Like, what other people are going to be doing an exam like this? Because people do it, but you don't know what type of people do it. Because not everybody, especially at this part of the world, not everybody's out here trying to learn German. Maybe if I was in England, and I think they teach German in the schools in England, then I'd be like, wait, no, but here everybody's like French, Spanish. So I got there, and I'm expecting people from third world countries like I am, expecting, Indian people, Chinese people, Africans. I was definitely expecting Africans. And in hindsight, I think if Africans were there and people from that side of the world were there, they wouldn't do it in Washington. They wouldn't fly all the way to Washington. They'd probably fly to like Turkey, or they would go to any centers in their own home countries. So the people there were all Americans. We're all white American kids, and maybe it sounds ridiculous in hindsight, but I really wasn't expecting that, because it's like, well, why not just, yeah, I guess Americans want to avoid tuition as well. It is expensive for everyone, but it's like, yeah, it's like I didn't expect that at all. And a lot of them there, so like I think maybe one person said that they were actually born in Germany. You had some people that lived in Germany for a couple of years. You had some people who, I think there was one guy who was like from Austria. I was like, whoa, and he had like a dialect thing going on, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And so I was like the only ethnic person. I was the only black person there. I was the only ethnic non-white person there, whatever you want to call it. Which, I mean, I don't really care. I mean, everyone was there is nice. There's like nothing really going on But I just found it interesting, like the type of people I saw there, and like, okay, what other type of people are the type of people to, like, take up themselves and like learn German? So that was interesting. Everyone seemed to be pretty good in German. Everyone there was switched on. We all kind of had the same mindset. We all kind of had the same preparation experiences. We all used the same books, PDFs, the same thing. And I thought that was really interesting because it was like, yeah. Well, I mean, what else are you gonna do? We like, I think they had teachers, or maybe if they didn't have teachers, a lot of them had German ancestry, so they could speak with like relatives and stuff when they lived in Germany. But the preparation for the exam, everyone was on the same page. Everyone's like, yeah, this is how you do it. We did it this way. We had the same experiences. We had the same thoughts about we had the same challenges about certain parts of the exam that were very difficult. So that was really nice. So the exam lasted from 9:30 to 1:30, which sounds long, but it felt actually a lot shorter than that because we took breaks in between. And the whole institute was so nice. The people there at work were so nice. You know, they made you feel so comfortable. Everything happened pretty much on time. You know, the computers worked, the sound worked. It was like, any fears of anything going on at the day, you knew where the bathroom was. You could take bathroom breaks when you, like, every exam part maybe only lasted maybe 30 minutes or so, 50 minutes for like writing probably. It was completely, writing was an hour 30, which was longer than expected, but it was just nice, man. It was just like the perfect working environment, and I'm so grateful for the people working at Go to Washington, and the people that helped us understand like what we need to do. So shout out to those people if they see this. It was really good. The exam, you're nervous before every exam, right? But because you studied so much and because I did a lot of things, meditation, journaling, so I was pretty calm once I got in the chair. And after that, I just did it. I just did my best. You know, if I knew I made a mistake, you don't get to check over, by the way. It's one of those digital tests. Every time you do, every part maybe lasts for a certain amount of time. And once that time is done, it's gone forever. Done. No check over at the end of the exam. You check over during those 4 minutes where you do that one little part of the exam. So it's a very interesting experience. You really have to be switched on for it. But again, because my preparation was so rigorous, especially towards the end, towards the coming of the exam, I felt confident I could, handle that pressure. What else is there? So I left and I felt good. Weight off my shoulders. I did the exam. The thing I've been preparing for like 2 years, even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, it's done. Now I can focus on YouTube, bulking, this, that, the other. The trip was fine. It was nervy because it was like, how like things, especially in January, there are a lot of stories about how planes got delayed. And if a flight was cancelled, then I don't know how I'd get there in time. If a flight was just cancelled, then it would have just meant we would have just wasted money. Like money for the hotel, money for the exam. And I'm just grateful that the whole trip went as expected. Like there were delays in Jamaica, and we had to do, or I say we, but it's really my mother. She had to schedule a new flight so we could catch like the connecting flight from Miami to all sorts of things. But I'm just so grateful that we were able to get it done, honestly, because that would have just been very anticlimactic if I just wait another couple of months, And I got back my results yesterday. I'm filming this video. I knew I was gonna make this video for a while, but I wanted to wait till I got back my results because I didn't want to jinx anything, whatever. And I passed. I got TDN4. As I said, I got TDN4. I need TDN4 in everything. TDN5 is better than TDN4, so I got TDN5 in 2, TDN4 in 2. So I'm pretty good. I got a pretty good score. Leading up to the exam results, I'm very nervous. I think I knew I did my best, but naturally you're always nervous. I knew I was capable of passing, but you're always nervous, even if you're sure that you can pass, because you don't want to be overconfident, and you always have these imaginary scenarios where it just ends anticlimactically. What if they just lost my paper, for example? What if they just, I don't know. What if I don't know, bro. What if I didn't sign something at the exam center and it just voids everything I did, These are the things that come into your head when you're like me and you just, but you keep calm, man. It's not like I was like, you couldn't tell. I didn't let it bother me. I still did other things, but I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. I passed. I got more than what I need to get done. The trip was well. Not all the woods yet. I still have to apply. Get accepted, go there. But this part was definitely the hardest part of the whole process. You know, I got good grades in school. I studied the subject I need to study what I need to study in college. I got good grades. I just need to make sure I have all the right documents in time for the window. There ain't no way. Like, I've come too far now. I'm almost certain. I'm pretty much certain I'm going to be studying in Germany. Hopefully by the end of this year. I'm very grateful. I said I'm very grateful. I'm happy, but more than that, I'm grateful to my mother who supported me, my family, the people that helped me along the way, people who took their time. I'm grateful for my tutor. I'm grateful for Jürgen who took the time to like speak with me before the exam and really encourage me and tell me that he said to me before the exam, I said I'm nervous, you know, and he said die Prüfung ist für dich wie ein Kinderspiel, which basically means that like the exam is basically like a child's thing. It's a child's thing for you. That's essentially what he said to me, and I was like, yeah, I hope so. And would I describe it as a kid's game? No, I didn't get TDN5 in everything, so I can't say it's a kid's game, but I got through what I need to get through. I still have a lot left to learn in German, and you know, when I move there, then obviously I'm just gonna learn so much more. But even before that, I'm just gonna keep on learning, keep on, you know, practicing, not as intensely because, you know, I did what I need to do, but I don't want to lose my knowledge, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I should have mentioned so many times where like my aunts, one of my aunts who lives in Germany, she came to Jamaica maybe a year ago, and she was like the first one. That was like the first time my parents actually saw me, or my family saw me speak German, and they saw me speaking to her just so comfortably. I was like, whoa, where the frick did that come from? They're like, where the frick did that come from? When did that happen? And it was just, that was cool. And then after I did the exam, before the results came out, but after I did the exam, my other aunt came to Jamaica, and we were talking as well. And she phoned her husband, and she phoned her one of her sons, one of my cousins, and she was at the same thing. You know, at that point, my family knew. To be honest, at that point, my family wasn't very surprised, but she was surprised. Everyone is surprised when they hear it for the first time. So I'm grateful, not prideful. I'm humble. I'm also humble at the same moment because it's like, yeah, I work hard for this. I work hard and had a lot of support. So it was really just my duty. You understand? That was like my duty. If I didn't pass this, that was on me. It's not because it was so hard. It was because of me. I had like literally everything going for me. So yeah, humble. I just wanted to share this. Wanted to document it in case anyone. If any family members ask me what it's like, I can always refer to this video, get more views. With that being said, I'm done. So I think I wonder how this feels. We're gonna see how much I like this. I kind of like this kind of loose script video, talking into my phone. I think the audio it's gonna sound better this way than just with like the built-in mic on the camera. And yeah, with that being said, peace.